Hey there, you just clicked on First Down Punts. Nice move. This is a podcast about football and how it relates to fantasy football. Hope you like what you hear. We're going to get this thing started. Let's get crazy. And welcome in, everyone, to another episode of First Down Punts. I'm your host, Coach Chris. Today we're going to be doing our waiver wire ads for Week 2. Following the Week 1 games, it is Tuesday. We're going to get into some injuries that happened and what you should do about that. And other than that, guys, let's kick this off. Let's get crazy. The injuries we want to talk about, we're going to get into that real quick first. Obviously, I'm just going to list a bunch and tell you what's going on with them. George Kittle, he will be headed to IR and out for 4 weeks, dealing with a hamstring injury. He came in, scored a touchdown. Handful of plays later, catch him standing on the sideline like it was the beginning of the game. And he's watching the national anthem being sang. I'm upset about it because George Kittle's on my team in my home league. He was my 4th-round pick, and I am not happy about it. Niners suffered a bunch of injuries. Brock Purdy got banged up. Jawan Jennings got banged up, who was already banged up coming into the game. And it's definitely going to be something to be paying attention to. Brock Purdy might be out a week. Jawan Jennings could be out a week, maybe not. They're saying he's okay. They think he'll play this week, but keep your eyes peeled for that. Other injuries, Drake London for the Falcons goes down. Another guy on my team. He was my 3rd-round pick in my home league, so I'm dealing with some injuries myself, and we got to get in to figure out who to pick up because of that. But Drake London sounds like he could be out anywhere between 2 to 5 weeks. He's got an AC joint sprain, came down hard on his shoulder on what you would have wished would have been a touchdown catch, but was ruled incomplete and was out for the rest of the game. Falcons ended up losing the game. They had a chance to tie it with a missed kick, but we'll get into that in our other video when we review Week 1. Brock Bowers, banged up, got a helmet to the knee, did not play the rest of the game. Before that, Michael Mayer was already involved, so that's something to pay attention to, but he could be a waiver ad, definitely, if Bowers is out. Right now, they're saying Bowers should be okay, so we'll see where that goes. Jalen Waddle, pulled a normal Jalen Waddle for Miami. Came into the game, started, got some catches, got hurt, left the game, came back in the game. he does a normal Jalen Waddle thing. He seems to do it every week where he plays, then gets hurt, then comes back later on. So Jonathan Taylor, this is one that was not reported a lot because he touched the ball in the first 43, or he played the first 43 offensive plays. But he got banged up in the back of his head, neck area on a play towards the end of the game. Yeah, I think it was in the beginning of the 4th quarter, maybe the end of the 3rd. But DJ Giddens proceeded to handle the rest of the carries. The Colts were already up big on the Dolphins, so there was no need to rush Taylor back in. But it's something you do want to pay attention to. Evan Ingram, we know Ingram's injury history. Not starting off good in Denver. Leaves the game. Not sure if he's going to play this upcoming week. Something we're waiting for some more news on, but just something for you to know and be paying attention to, maybe picking up a guy because of it. And the last one we already talked about in our other video on Saturday, which was the Xavier Worthy injury. He's going to be out for a while, possibly for the season. They're waiting to see how he heals right away. May need surgery. If you don't have an IR spot, I almost want to say drop them, but maybe wait a week, see what the news is. Just something to pay attention to. And because of that, Hollywood Brown got 10 catches on 16 targets, I think it was. It was crazy. So he's definitely in the waiver wire ads part. But other than that, some offensive linemen got banged up for teams. Dolphins lost some. Houston center got banged up. These are going to affect the fantasy players' ability to be productive if they don't have an offensive line in front of them. We'll get into that when we get into other things in our weekly review video that we're going to record later today. So as far as Week 1 waiver wire ads going into Week 2, number 1 on that list, he's probably on most rosters because everybody knows how good he is when he is healthy, when he is playing, Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen had 7 for 68 and 1. More importantly, he was the guy Justin Herbert was going to on 3rd downs, the guy he trusted when he needed a catch to convert and keep the drive alive. Keenan Allen is going to be somebody you can start as a 3rd receiver, a flex spot guy for the majority of the season in my mind. The way the Chargers, their pass rate was ridiculous. We talked about it in our other video. they threw the hell out the ball. Herbert was winging it all over the field. It's why 3 or 4 guys are getting passes in this. They could be fantasy viable going forward. The other guy on the other side of him, Quentin Johnston, he had 5 for 79 and 2 touchdowns. When he catches the ball, man, it's usually a touchdown. It's usually a big play. That's the type of player he is. I wasn't sure how much they were going to use him with the drafting of Trey Harris, with the addition. I mean, Mike Williams came back, then he retired, and then they brought Keenan Allen back. I figured that he would be ahead of Quentin Johnston, and he was on the majority of drives. But definitely something that both of these guys are fantasy viable, and it hurt Ladd McConkey in the process, so that's something to keep an eye on. And if you have McConkey, I told you I wouldn't have drafted him as the number one. Still feel that way. I believe all 3 of these guys are going to be fantasy viable if the pass rate continues. So that's something to pay attention to. Guys on the Browns. We're talking about Browns players being fantasy viable. You know it's a good day. Dylan Sampson. Ford was the starter. Jerome Ford was the starter. Honestly, I don't think Jerome Ford's got much time left. I thought maybe him and one of the rookies could split time with the Judkins stuff going on. But if Judkins is back next week, I got a feeling that Ford's not going to get the ball very much at all. Now, maybe they ease Judkins in and him and Ford split it. But Dylan Sampson became the passing down back and was the guy getting the majority of touches throughout the second half of the game. He went 12 for 29, not great on the rushing, but 8 for 64 on receiving. That's a guy I want to pick up in fantasy. Along with the backup tight end there, who I had as my sleeper candidate going into the game, Harold Fannin Jr. had 7 for 63. I believe it was on 10 targets. I felt like they were going to use him as a big slot, similar to what the Bears could do with Colston Loveland. They put him there. They put him in line. They put him in the backfield. I believe he took a direct snap. Harold Fannin Jr. was being used everywhere. And besides Keenan Allen, this guy is probably the most priority ad in your league. Tight ends are already valuable. Kittle's down. Bowers is banged up. Ingram is banged up. If you got any of those guys, this guy should definitely be your number one. You should be spending a bunch of fab to get him. I'm not going to say, I don't know how much you have, whether it's 100 or 500 or 20,000. I don't know what your fab is. Just understand you should be spending some of it to go get Harold Fannin Jr. Cedric Tillman is another guy from the Browns that is going to be a viable fantasy option. Jerry Jeudy was actually kind of quiet in this game, only had a couple catches. And Cedric Tillman was the guy that it seemed Flacco was looking to down the field, short of Harold Fannin. And Njoku and Jeudy, the guys he expected to be the guys getting the points, not very productive in this game. It's the Tillman and Fannin that were productive. So keep an eye on it. But Fannin's a guy I would definitely go get. Tillman's a maybe. And maybe in a deep league, he's already drafted, or he's on the waiver. You should go get him if you're in a deep league. But if you're not starting 3 receivers or with a couple flex spots, I don't know if Tillman's worthy of it. Other guys to look at. Obviously, Bill. Jacory Croskey-Merritt came out, balled out. Chris Rodriguez was inactive for the game after all the hoopla about the depth chart. Rodriguez ends up being inactive. Bill goes for 84 and a touchdown. Along with, I believe, a catch for like 6 yards or something like that. I forget, maybe it was 10 yards. I forget what it was. But what it mattered most is that Bill was involved and productive. And if that's the case, Jacory Croskey-Merritt, if he's on your waivers, he's the number one priority ad because running backs are the most valuable spot. If he's not on your waiver and you have him like I do, once Rodriguez was deemed inactive, I put Bill in the starting lineup. Glad I did because I had Tank Bigsby in there, and that's a guy that just got traded to the Eagles. I knew by the second quarter Tank Bigsby was not going to be on the Jags for long. I went and told my son. He even told my buddy Monday morning, hey, Tank Bigsby's getting traded today or tomorrow. He got traded yesterday in the afternoon. Simply for the fact that when the other 3 running backs touched the ball before he did, other than a kick return, Tank Bigsby was no longer in the conversation for he's going to be on a team, he's going to be part of our plan. Now, they ended up getting him, I think, like 12 carries in the second half, but he's been traded to the Eagles. They say they like because his kick returns. Tank Bigsby was not a big kick return. He did 1 kick return yesterday, or on Sunday, and got 20 yards out of it. It wasn't like he took it to the house or some shit. So with Shipley getting banged up there for the Eagles, I believe Bigsby will be the temporary backup for now. I don't believe A.J. Dillon is going to be involved very much at all season. But definitely something to pay attention to. And with saying that, in Jacksonville, Bashaw Tootin and LaQuinton Allen are the guys that are fighting for the number 2 spot. And LaQuinton Allen was actually the guy that got the ball first. He was the later draft pick of the two, but he was the one to touch the ball first. I believe he came in the game before Tootin as well. So he might end up being the guy to pick up. But right now, it's kind of a wait and see. If you want to take the chance, maybe it's Tootin because he's the higher drafted guy. But pay attention to LaQuinton Allen's touches over the next game or two if he's still out there on the waiver. A couple players for the Saints. Obviously, Juwan Johnson had 11 targets, 8 catches for, what was he at, 63, I think it was? Where was it? 8 for 76. That's a great day for a tight end. He's a top 5 tight end, I think, in fantasy this week, and maybe top 10. I forget if anybody passed him in last night's game, but definitely something to guy. I talked about him before. If you got him, start him. He's going to be involved. Taysom Hill's not healthy. Nobody else in that room is a threat to him in my mind. And he's a guy that's going to be a serviceable starter. I didn't expect him to get 8 catches. I had him going for like 4 or 5 and probably like 40 to 60 yards. But that's a great day. And more importantly, Rattler seemed to be able to get him serviceable because Olave did decent. Kamara got a touchdown, did decent. And Rashid Shaheed, another guy from the Saints, had 6 for 33. He was involved, just not very productive with the opportunities. I think that could change over the course of time. He is a deep ball guy. They just missed him on a deep ball down the field in the game, so it's something to be paying attention to. He might have got drafted in your league, might have got dropped because he got drafted and had 6 for 33, which isn't very much when you got other guys out there that could have done better. Daniel Jones, let's talk about him real quick. Daniel Jones, if he's on your waiver wire, and maybe you got Purdy, maybe you got somebody that Bryce Young that didn't produce, some of these other guys that didn't produce, you're like, should I go grab Daniel Jones? Look, Daniel Jones is always going to be Daniel Jones. I know he had a great day. I give him a round of applause, man. He had a hell of a day. He also played the Miami Dolphins, who have clearly quit. So it's something to take into consideration when you are picking up Daniel Jones, because next week they do not play the Miami Dolphins, and we will see probably more realistic Daniel Jones stat line. Daniel Jones has always been able to run. Don't think that's a surprise that he had 2 rushing touchdowns, other than he had 2. You expect him to have a chance of 1 because if they get into the red zone, he could steal one just like Richardson used to from Jonathan Taylor. He ended up getting 2 short QB dives into the end zone. Or maybe it was 1 QB dive and he ran another one from like the 6. I forget what it was now. But all the same, he balled out. That's all there was to it. I think it was 22 of 29. Had how many passing yards did he have here? Where's he at? 272, 1 touchdown passing, 26 yards, and 2 touchdowns rushing. That's a great day for fantasy. I think he's like the number 3 or number 5 quarterback on the week after Lamar and Josh Allen score fest on Sunday night. He fell down a little bit. So other guys to pay attention to. Kayshon Boutte had 6 for 103. He finished last year with a 100-yard game. He starts this year with a 100-yard game. It's clear that Drake May likes him. Diggs didn't have a lot. He had 6 catches, but not a lot of yards. Kyle Williams not involved, the rookie. I thought he'd be more involved. And Pop Douglas ended up getting a touchdown there in New England, but wasn't super productive other than that. You always love getting a touchdown. Hey, it's 6 points at a time, so you love those. But Noah Fant for the Cincinnati Bengals didn't start the game, but ended up being the one that caught the touchdown and was more productive, had 4 for 26 and a touchdown. Guy maybe to pay attention to if you lost one of those tight ends. You don't get Harold Fannin. It's just a guy that's like, hey, maybe I could pick this guy up and start him. This with the Bengals offense, they're going to be throwing the ball all over the field. Granted, Burrow wasn't very productive this week. It's definitely the Cleveland defense is just good. They're going to be good. But if Noah Fant can be productive in that offense with the attention, if he can end up being the guy that's getting the looks instead of Gesicki's like a big slot player anyway, so maybe they stick him in the slot and put Fant at the inline tight end and have a lot of pass catchers out there. It's something to pay attention to, man. And if you need a pinch, Noah Fant's that guy. Tyler Conklin, another one of those guys I told you about already in our Saturday video, but Tyler Conklin is a guy that was getting the looks. Disley started for the Chargers. Tyler Conklin was the one getting the looks. He only had 2 for 50, But 2 for 50 yards is great. You love to see that. And I feel like he's just going to get more ingrained in that offense as the season goes on. Arondé Gadsden was inactive, the rookie. So that lets you know that he's not ready. And Conklin and Disley, I think Conklin is a better player. I think Conklin will be the more productive tight end there with the Chargers. Another guy we talked about a second ago, Hollywood Brown for the Chiefs, with Xavier Worthy going down, Rashee Rice on suspension. It was all up to Hollywood Brown, apparently, because he had 10 for 99 on 16 targets. So he's drafted in my home league. We start 4 receivers. We got super deep leagues, our super deep rosters, and he was starting for a guy. And I know my buddy's real happy that he got 10 for 99 and that Xavier Worthy is no longer in the picture. But he had like 6 for like 29. Like he wasn't doing very much at all. And then he caught a long one. It helped his production. And at the end of the day, if he's going to be the go-to receiver there in KC, which I could definitely see them making a trade, maybe for Chris Olave, maybe for Tyreek Hill, bring him back. I don't know if anybody wants Tyreek right now with his attitude. So we'll find out if anything happens with that. But I definitely think Tyreek's a trade candidate. Trey Benson for the Arizona Cardinals, another guy. Had a good productive day. 8 for 69, outrushed James Conner. Only had 1 catch for 6 yards, no touchdowns. But they said he was going to be involved, and he was involved. That's going to be concerning for James Conner's production, but definitely good for anybody to draft a Trey Benson that he is that productive, 8 for 69. That's a great day. For only having 8 opportunities, he might end up being the guy that gets more touches over the course of the season to keep James Conner fresh for the playoffs. And it affects James Conner's production overall and helps Benson be a third guy and a flex guy, something like that. So DJ Giddens, I talked about the Jonathan Taylor possible injury, just a guy to know about. He went 12 for 41 when he did play at the end of the game. Nobody touched the ball besides Jonathan Taylor for the first 43 plays. So if Taylor's healthy, I don't know how much Giddens is going to be involved. But what he did show is he could be productive. Again, it was against the Dolphins. I'm not sitting here claiming that you should go run out and get him. He didn't average over 4 yards a carry, but he looked good out there. And if needed to start for Jonathan Taylor, I think he'd be fine as a fantasy start. So we talked about Michael Mayer for the Raiders with Bowers getting banged up. Michael Mayer is a candidate to be looked at. He might be a candidate to be looked at anyways. He had 4 for 38, but he was involved. He was on the field quite a bit. I think it was like 9 to 4 on the first drive or something like that on plays between him and Bowers. But with Bowers banged up, they could try to rest him a little bit more next game. Maybe Michael Mayer is the guy that goes out there and gets 7 for 60 and gives you 10 points on the day, or maybe it's 13, depending on how your league scores. But and Dante Thornton, I know he didn't have a huge day. He had 2 for 45, but the fact of the matter is he was on the field as the third receiver all the time. And he, like I said, 6'5". Trey Tucker got the touchdown. I think Thornton is a better player than Trey Tucker, and I think it's only a matter of time before he takes over. He's a guy that you should be keeping an eye on, maybe not rush out and pick up. But if you have a guy that went on IR, or you got a guy that got banged up, you're not holding on to him or something, maybe pick this guy up if he's out there on your waivers. And then last guy on the list, we're going to get into, 2 guys. Jaden Reed for the Packers, who was in a walking boot 2 weeks ago, could barely move last week, and then came out and went 3 for 45 and a touchdown on, I think it was 6 targets, maybe 5. Not an every down starter. Didn't play a down with 2 wide receiver sets. Was only out there in 3 wide receiver sets. But he's Jaden Reed. He's a talented kid, and when on the field, he could score at any time. So he's a guy that if he's on your roster, on your waivers, maybe go pick him up, put him on your bench. If he gets healthy or something happens to one of those other receivers, he becomes that much more valuable. He's definitely a guy you can start on a bye week or in a pinch and not fear that he's going to give you a goose egg too often. It just might not be super productive. It's just one of those flex guys. And the last guy we're going to talk about is the guy that stepped up when Kittle went down. That's Jake Tonges. I think that's how you say his name. Maybe it's Tonges. I don't know. But what I do know is he made one hell of a catch at the end of the game for the game winner for the Niners and went 3 for 15 with a touchdown. So the touchdown was the game winner. He had to jump up and snag it between a couple of defenders. Didn't look like Brock Purdy should have thrown it there, but clearly he trusts this guy. And that's interesting enough to me that says, all right, I'm going to pay attention to what happens in week 2. And if he comes out and is productive in that tight end role, he gets to start. Like, he wasn't even the second tight end on the field. Luke Farrell was, I believe. And it's definitely something to be paying attention to of who comes on the field, who starts, who gets named the starter. Maybe Shanahan lets us know before the game, maybe Thursday, Friday at worst. That'd be great. But we know Kittle's out for at least 4 weeks with a hamstring. So somebody's got to step up into that role. Jennings is banged up. Pearsall played great, but just waiting to see if anybody steps up. And that's if Purdy's even playing. Maybe you don't want anything to do with this offense other than McCaffrey. Something to pay attention to. Turn your notifications off for whoever you're following and on social medias or videos or whatever else. And if the news comes out that Purdy's out for a week, I would recommend sitting everybody on that team except Christian McCaffrey. So other than that, guys, we're going to get out of here. I hope you guys, I hope this helps you guys. If you got any questions about who you should pick up, who you should drop, feel free to ask. You can follow us on social medias. It's at First Down Punts on X and on Blue Sky. So either or. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Hope everyone's having a good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Till next time, we'll see you. I'm out. First Down Punts!